Hey everybody, it's Abby from Chronically Optimistic, and today I'm going to be doing a video about my medication update. So hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well today. It's kind of a really gloomy day outside. It's super cloudy. I'm feeling really tired, but you know, despite how I'm feeling, I really wanted to do a video today to talk to you guys about my medication update and just how I've been feeling over the last couple weeks, because I've actually switched my medication from Cipralex to Trintellix. So I want to talk to you guys about that. So, Ciprolex is, I believe, also known as Lexapro in the United States, and the chemical name for it is escitalopram. And Trintellix is actually a completely different thing. I don't remember if it's an SSRI or not, but Trintellix is also known as, I believe, vortioxetine. So it's a different chemical completely, and it works in slightly different ways. So first of all, a little backstory of why I switched at all. So I've been on the Ciprolex for about 2 or so years, give or take a couple months, and it's been working pretty well for me. Over the course of taking it, I have kind of switched doses. I've sort of switched doses a lot. I started off at 5, which is a fairly low dose. And then I worked my way up to 10, and then for a few months, maybe just 1 or 2 months actually, I went up to 15 milligrams, but it was too much for my body. I felt like a zombie. I kind of was apathetic. My emotions were really dulled, and in addition to not feeling my anxiety and depression, I wasn't really feeling happiness, which is not great. So I decided to not be on 15 and went back down to 10, and I didn't really have any problems with the jump from 15 to 10. That was okay. I wasn't on the 15 for that long, so I'm guessing I just didn't have that much withdrawal doing that. And then I was on the 10 for the majority of the time. So 10 milligrams for me worked really well. It took the edge off my anxiety. You know, I still had some bad days. And I think that's important to know, is that you're still gonna have some bad days. It's not this magic pill that's gonna make everything amazing and you're gonna have all these amazing days. No, you're still gonna feel emotions. You're still gonna, you know, react to bad events in your life or stressful events in your life with stress and anxiety and sadness. So obviously I had ups and downs. But for the most part, I felt really good. Oh, it's my kitty Hippo. You can say hi to Hippo. Say hi, Hippo. He's camera shy. So anyway, what I was saying before, you're gonna have some good days and bad days. You're gonna have ups and downs. That's totally normal. But for the most part, it helped me out a lot. It stopped me from doing as much of the avoidance stuff that I had been doing before, where some days I would have so much anxiety about even going to the grocery store and lining up in the line, that I would order my groceries online and have them delivered, which, by the way, was super awesome. And I recommend it if you can't get to the store or if you live on the 3rd floor like me. It was awesome because they carried all my stuff up the stairs for me. But that being said, I was doing it for a bad reason. I was avoiding certain situations and certain things because of how anxious I was feeling. And so the Ciprolex really helped me with that. It definitely took the edge off and was making me feel like I could, you know, go out to Walmart or, you know, the grocery store and deal with the lines and the people without totally freaking out inside. And so, you know, that was a huge life changer for me. And even more so than that, it really helped me with my depression. You know, I felt more balanced over time, and I felt like, I wasn't having so many of those deep, dark, draining depression days. It took a while for me to get to that point, but I don't think I really realized how bad my depression actually was until I was on the Ciprolex looking back. I'll probably do another video about that and why I think I got depression, because I'm pretty sure I know what triggered it. So if you want me to do a video on that, let me know. I would be happy to. Ciprolex was working really well for me. However, I'm a very sensitive person in that my body tends to react really easily to medications. And I don't just mean the, really strong medications like antidepressants, like even over-the-counter meds or antibiotics. I would just get all of the negative side effects that you could possibly have on them. And so I had a few really negative side effects with Ciprolex that didn't go away after the settling in period, I guess you could say. So what happens with most antidepressants and SSRIs in particular is it takes about 4 to 6 weeks before you start to see all of the positive effects sink in, and it takes some time for some of the initial negative side effects to go away. So for me, I had the negative side effects start immediately as I started taking it, and I didn't feel the positive side effects for probably 6 or more weeks. But generally what happens is over time, those negative side effects start to fade away and you're left with just the positive ones if you stick with the medication long enough. So I had a few of my negative side effects kind of fade away. The ones that kind of left were I would clench my jaw a bunch and I would clench my muscles. I would suddenly notice that I was clenching my thigh muscles up and I was all tense and my shoulders were all tense and my jaw was tense and I was clenching my teeth. After a while that eased up a bunch. I was having a bunch of headaches and after a while that eased up a bunch. And oh gosh, I don't know. I had so many side effects. It's really hard for me to list all of them, but I had sleep problems, I had insomnia, I had these really, really weird, vivid dreams that when I woke up, sometimes I would have trouble figuring out if it was reality or a dream, because it was so real. Sometimes I thought it had actually happened, and I just had a whole slew of negative side effects, but a lot of them started to ease up over time or go away. One of the things that didn't go away over time was this weird exacerbated fatigue. Now, I had fatigue before I started taking them, either because of the depression or because of chronic fatigue syndrome, which I may have, or because of some other reason. But when I started the medication, it messed up my sleep, but it also made me so tired all the time. And I don't just mean slightly sleepy where you're just slightly off. I mean debilitating fatigue to the point where, I couldn't function. I would sleep for 12 hours in the night, wake up feeling absolutely exhausted, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours later, even if I hadn't done anything that day, I would then need to take a nap. And I don't mean a power nap, I mean a 2 or 3 hour nap. And I'd wake up still feeling exhausted. So I was so tired. And it was this kind of bone tiredness that you get if you've ever had a really bad flu and you're in bed, you can barely move, you're feeling weak and your body feels heavy. It's like that, except for all the time. So about maybe a month and a half ago-ish, I'll say, I was talking to my doctor about it and we decided that maybe no, that's not true, I lied. So a few months ago, I was talking to my doctor and, we had been trying to battle this ongoing problem for at least a year to a year and a half at this point. And we decided that maybe it would be best to try and taper off my Ciprolex and see what happened. And I had a couple of options. One option was I could taper off Ciprolex and wean off completely and be on nothing and see how I was completely off the medication entirely. And option 2 was, if I couldn't cope, then we would either wean me off completely and start me on a new medication, or we would just wean me down to a lower dose, like 5 milligrams, and either add in a second medication like Wellbutrin or something like that to try and help with the fatigue and kind of offset the negative side effects of that. Or once I was down to a low dose, we would just switch me to another medication. So I started my weaning process. I went from 10 milligrams down to 7.5 milligrams, and I actually stayed at that point for a couple of months. And I made the decision to wait until after Christmas was over to continue tapering, because it was just such a stressful time in my life for me, and I knew it would be a huge trigger, and I didn't want to have to deal with, everything going on as well as weaning off of antidepressants, because that's hard enough as it is. So I made the decision to wait. So after Christmas was over, so this January, I then went from 7.5 milligrams down to 5. For some reason, going from 10 to 7.5, I had a couple of days of withdrawal symptoms, and then I felt pretty okay. And I was actually coping pretty okay on 7.5, but I still had the really bad fatigue. I don't know why, but going from 7.5 to 5 was a nightmare for me. I just had so much withdrawal and weaning side effects, and I was really emotional. I was crying a lot. I felt some depression creeping back in. I felt anxiety creeping back in. I just wasn't myself. I found that I was becoming a little bit paranoid. I was doing these kind of OCD tendencies where I would have to check something 10 or 20 times before I went to bed, and it was my anxiety manifesting itself. And I was just not doing great at all. I was having a bunch of headaches, and I mean like a headache every single day. I was feeling really crappy. That being said, I had so much more energy, and it was at that point that me and my doctor realized that it probably was Ciprolex that was making me as tired as I was. And I mean, I'm generally always tired anyway because of my fibro, but it was just making it 10 times worse. And so as I started coming down on it, I realized that, wow, this has been suppressing my energy for 2 years, and I suddenly had all this energy. I was able to run all these errands and do all these chores and get stuff done around the house, and it was amazing. But at the same time, it was horrible because mentally I felt awful. I was in this mental nightmare where I was starting to feel how I had felt before I went on medication, and I wasn't feeling great at all. And I think it's important to realize that sometimes when you're withdrawing off of an antidepressant, you can have withdrawal symptoms that basically you get rebound anxiety or rebound depression. And it's not that your depression and anxiety are coming back for, as a permanent thing. It could just be that your brain has relied on that extra serotonin for so long that when you take it away, it takes your brain some time to kind of figure its shit out. Let's just put it that way. So during that time that your brain is relearning to make its own serotonin again, you can kind of have this rebound depression and rebound anxiety. So it's possible that that's what it was, but I just was not coping very well with it. And it was very discouraging because my initial plan had been to come off meds entirely and use other things to cope, like therapy and mindfulness meditation and yoga and stuff like that. And so for me to get down to 5 and be feeling how I was feeling, I was just so discouraged. I was just really discouraged. So my doctor made the decision, with me of course, to completely switch me from the Ciprolex to a new drug called Trintellix. Now Trintellix, I don't remember what it's called in the States, but if I remember, I'll have it down in the description box. but basically it was only recently approved in Canada, which is where I'm from, and it's a way newer medication. So basically how it's being described to me is that it's a way newer medication that is supposed to have less side effects. It's supposed to have less of the brain fog and the kind of like mind haziness, which I was suffering from, and it's supposed to cause less fatigue and stuff like that, while still being good for depression and anxiety. So I was willing to give it a try. Because I was feeling so crappy. I realized I probably needed something, but I didn't want to go back on the Ciprolex because obviously it was causing my fatigue, and that's no way to live either. And so I needed to find a balance between controlling my anxiety and depression and living my life and not being completely debilitated by the side effects. So for the last month maybe, I have been on the Trintellix. I am only on a very low dose. We switched me from 5 milligrams of Ciprolex to 5 milligrams of the Trintellix, and that is what I am on now. Probably because this video is getting kind of long, I'll probably make a second video where I talk about my experience with the Trintellix so far. But I just wanted to give you guys basically an update on the last 2 years experience being on SSRIs and being on Ciprolex, and basically talk about what that's been like. Now, if I could leave you guys with one last message before I end this video, it would be that if you're going through anything where you have anxiety or depression or any kind of mental problem and you feel like you cannot cope, I just want to say there's absolutely no shame whatsoever in getting help from a doctor and from medications. I know there's kind of some stigma out there about going on antidepressants or going on prescription medication, but I just want to say that, you know, has just come so far in the last several years. Doctors are learning so much more about psychology and mental health and mental illness, and you know, a lot of these medications have turned people's lives around. Sure, there's negative side effects associated with them, and I think it's important to realize that they're not a miracle pill. They're not this magic happy pill that you're gonna take and suddenly all your problems will disappear. No, I think it's important to go into it realizing that, you know, this will help you begin to get your life together, and that while you're on the medication, I think it's important to help yourself as well. Doing things like seeing a therapist or a counselor or a psychiatrist, and you know, maybe doing some other things as well, like going to a mindfulness meditation program, or I went to a program called Bounce Back, which is where I basically had phone sessions with a coach, and I went through all these workbooks to try and help me learn strategies to cope. And you know, whilst you're on the medication, you can be proactive by, you know, learning strategies to help you cope so that one day you can maybe come off of them, and just realizing that, you know, they're not a fix-all. They're not going to make everything amazing and better suddenly, and it's something that you're going to have to stick with, and there's going to be ups and downs, and it's important to just find a balance between the good side effects and the bad side effects and find something that works for you. And importantly to remember is that just because you go on one medication and have a bad experience with it, that doesn't mean that there isn't a solution out there for you that will help. There are so many medications out there, hundreds and hundreds of different kinds, different formulations that are made up of different chemicals and affect you differently. So if one medication doesn't work for you, don't be afraid to talk to your doctor and see if there are other options out there for you. So with that being said, I would just like to say, don't feel ashamed or weak or like you're chickening out of life by going on antidepressants. It's nothing like that at all. I truly, honestly feel that if you have reached a point in your life where you realize that you can't cope on your own anymore, and you have reached out to a medical professional and you have taken the leap of taking a medication to try and turn your life around, I think that that is courageous, and I think that that is super brave. So never think that you're weak for doing that. Okay guys, so that's the end of this video, and I will talk to you guys more next time. I am planning on making a follow-up video where I talk about my experience with the Trintellix, and if there are other videos or topics you want me to discuss, leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to do so. Thanks and have a great day.